Currently, the economy is not looking the greatest for America. There's been a lot of uncertainty, especially within the Trump administration, on how their economic policy is going. This has led to a worsening economic situation. And the reason this is because economic uncertainty is bad for business. If a business doesn't know what's going to happen within the next couple of months, they're always going to be more conservative, they're always going to be more conservative, spend less money, and this leads to a decrease in demand. Now, demand actually drives the economy because if you have higher demand, that leads to more goods being brought into the country and more people buying and selling those items. And this is important for the economy. So, when there's economic uncertainty, it's pretty bad. And that's been happening a lot within the Trump presidency. And it's been particularly happening a lot with, one, the tariffs. The tariffs. When Trump just randomly increasing or decreasing tariffs based on, without any, notice, and it's, increasing, decreasing them, it's not good for conducive long-term planning. And that's leading to uncertainty with businesses because they have to be able to determine their supply chain and how much money, how much goods they sell to the U.S. and at what prices do they sell and other things like that they can't do. They can't plan for stuff like that whenever Trump's being so wishy-washy on tariffs, decreasing, increasing, decreasing, and increasing again. This leads to economic uncertainty that corporations tend not to like. And it's bad for business. It also means that due to the fact that it was uncertain, they're uncertain, companies actually do end up increasing prices before the tariffs actually go into effect. This is mainly because they don't know what's going to happen. So they have to price that uncertainty into their prices. This leads to inflation and increased prices for consumers, which is particularly bad when we've already have high prices due to the fact that the Biden administration had a 9% interest rate for almost a year. So that makes it really bad for particularly the lower people that are less income because they spend more of their income on the necessities like food, like water, like shelter. So it's particularly bad for them too because inflation's so high. Now, inflation's not extremely high right now. It's around 3% annually. If you look down here, all items rose 3% over 12 months ending in September. Now, that's not extremely high. But it's higher than what it should be at. So historically, the Fed has had a goal of 2% inflation per year. And the reason that they have a 2% inflation because having inflation, some level of inflation, not hyperinflation or massively increased inflation, but just basic level 2% low inflation, actually does encourage people to actually spend their money or invest it. So it increases the velocity of money, which makes it, which means there's more money to actually invest, and you're actually using more of the capital that we have in the U.S. Now, that's good for the U.S. But having a 3% is about 1.5% over the target. That's too high. And even though Trump's saying lower the interest rates, that would actually increase inflation, and it's not good. We're running into an issue right now where we have decently high inflation. It's not as high as the 9% under Biden, so it is better, but that's still high. And then we're also running into another economic problem that's also caused by the uncertainty and the government shutdown in a way. It's also caused by AI. The fact that we are having a bad jobs market. Right now, the jobs market is incredibly bad. And that's mainly due to the fact that we have, one, the economic uncertainty from the Trump administration on tariffs. Because if companies are uncertain, they're not going to invest more money in. They're not going to hire more employees when there's economic uncertainty, and that's mainly happening because of the tariffs. If Trump was actually consistent on the tariffs and didn't just flip flop constantly, then there would be less uncertainty. There's tons of uncertainty due to the fact that he flip flops so much. This has led to companies being more and more uncertain with their supply chains and more uncertain uncertain with how they're gonna with their with how much they can spend. So they're gonna try to spend less, and that means a lot of times having less employees. And this leads to corporations A, not hiring, and B, a lot of companies are firing people right now. You can see this with Verizon, because Verizon just cut up to 15,000 jobs. Now, that's a lot of jobs. And that's particularly a lot for like one company. Now, the reason this is happening, as I stated earlier, was one, uncertainty. The uncertainty of the tariffs and what's going on in the economy leads them to be more conservative, and they're cutting more jobs in order to make sure their profit margins are good, even if there was tariffs. And that's happening at places like Verizon. It's also happening at Amazon. It's also happening at big tech corporations. Now, big tech is a different problem though. It's not really most of the time it's not economic uncertainty there. It's actually the increase in AI. Now, AI right now is at the beginning stages. It's not extremely useful right now. Now, it's useful in that it's great for research and it helps improve efficiencies there, which is good for the economy since it increases productivity. But it's not at the point where it's actively taking away. It's not at the point where it's going to be taking away a lot of white collar jobs yet. So, at a lot of big tech companies, they're betting on AI, that it's going to be super good, that they can just fire a lot of people and still have their operations fine. Now, I do think at a lot of these big corporations that there is a lot of excess with people that are doing excess jobs, that people that could normally do it in a group of like a small group of people could previously do a job. Now they have like a large group of people where they have people that aren't actually effective and are actually wasting company money and time. Now, I do think that's very, very likely to be true, because just look at what Twitter did with Elon. He cut like 80% of the staff, and then and now I think X/Twitter is still doing pretty well. It's running okay. It's not too bad, and it's actually running better in a lot of ways. So I think also a lot of companies are trying to go off of what Elon Musk did, because they realize there's a lot of people at these companies that are there and they're not actually doing anything. So I think a lot of companies are also cutting jobs like that, which is good for the company efficiency and will actually improve profit margins. But it's bad for the people that, one, A, are getting fired, and two, it's going to increase unemployment rate, which is bad. And you need to have a good, stable unemployment rate, or else you'll have a lot of people unemployed, and that's not good, because then they'll join government programs, and so add more money add to the amount of money that taxpayers have to spend in order to support them. So that's not good. It's also added by the uncertainty, and the AI is a big issue. It's also another issue is that right now that another reason unemployment's like gonna be increasing soon is the fact that the government shut down and ended up firing a whole bunch of people. Now, there's been ever since Trump came into office, there's been a massive loss in government employee jobs, simply because he's cut, and that's why I voted him in there in the first place. But this has led to a decent amount of people being fired from the federal government, and I think the federal government is one, if not the largest employer in the U.S. So it's when you cut so many federal jobs, it's going to be a lot of people that are no longer employed. So they got to find more jobs. So that's actually going to in the short term increase unemployment. So all these reasons are going to lead to increase in unemployment, and we haven't seen that in the job report yet, because we haven't got any economic data from the government due to the fact that there was a shutdown and they couldn't release the data. Because because of the shutdown, they had to cut like all non-essential services or whatever, and they considered the Sorry, I was about to sneeze there. So it was so due to the fact that the government was shut down, they had to cut all the economic, all of the jobs and roles that aren't seen as essential, and collection of data is not considered essential during a government shutdown. So we didn't get any economic data from September. And particularly, we got some economic data since the Fed is separate from the federal government and it's self-funded. But we got no jobs report. We didn't get any jobs report at all. So I bet because in September we lost a whole bunch of jobs, the jobs report is going to see a decently large increase in the unemployment rate. Currently, I believe the unemployment rate is at 4.3%. Yeah, 4.3%. And that's around base level. That's what you want it to be at. You see that right here. You see it right before the recession here. This is basically 4.3% is basically resting unemployment. Now you see these spikes here. Those are recessions, 2008, COVID. But basically, you want around 4 to 5% unemployment during before a recession. That's going to be the natural rate of unemployment because you got people that are like switching jobs, moving around, and people that get fired. So that's a natural resting unemployment rate. So this is pretty good for the economy, and we want it to stay there. But I have a feeling this is going to shoot up to like around 5% or something after the September one. So that's going to be pretty bad for the economy. And it's also going to spook a lot of investors. Currently, we have a strong stock market right now, and that's mainly due to the fact that AI companies are propping up the stock market. Once they see a higher unemployment rate, it's going to scare some investors off. And it's going to make it even more uncertain. So it's not going to be, it might cause a free fall in the stock market. Now, all these are my economic predictions, although these could all be different. I have a feeling that the stock market's going to crash too. Because right now, AI companies are propping up the stock market. NVIDIA, Broadcom, and the Big Seven, all the major tech companies. They're propping up. I think they count for, like 40% of the S&P right now. So they're propping up that market. So once you see a increased unemployment and and people stop believing in like the AI boom that we've had, it's not people are going to end up like leaving they're going to stop investing in those corporations, and they're going to free fall. Now I think overall those companies have somewhat stable are financially stable, but they're still going to have investors panic and sell. Additionally, another thing with the AI, and particularly with the stock market, it's like a circular form of it's basically major AI companies are just circling money between everything. So currently NVIDIA sends I think they invested in OpenAI, and then just OpenAI used that money to buy more NVIDIA chips. So it's a circular money. It's a lot of circular money. And you can see that with Apple, you can see it with Google, any AI company or any major tech company is doing it right now. You can see it with Oracle. And it's propping up their numbers. So once those numbers crash or start to decrease, I also think that there's going to be a larger free fall in the stock market. Now, I do not know what's going to actually happen with that. And it's not financial advice at all. But this economic situation right now, it's not, there's a lot of uncertainty, and it's not really great right now. And due to that fact, it's there's a lot of uncertainty. We're on cliff basically, and eventually I think that we're gonna eventually fall off that cliff. And I don't really see a way to where we're not going to be able to fall off that cliff. Because there's always been these economic situations where it's pretty much untenable in the short term. Now, what I think is good for long-term growth, since I think the short term is not going to look great since we're in a sort of bubble, and there's a lot of economic situation. We need to what we could do for like long-term growth is, first of all, we need to cut government regulations and make it so it's easier to invest in innovation. Since certainly currently there's a lot of government regulations, and that's mainly due to the fact that we have this administrative state where you have this group of people that act like legislatures even though we don't elect them. So we need to somehow get rid of the administrative state, first of all, and cut all those regulations. That's one thing I think we should do. Another thing is that we need to stabilize tariff rates. Now, I think some tariffs might be good, particularly against countries that have tariffs against us currently. So it would be China, India. I think Canada has some level of tariffs against us. But any country that has tariffs, we need to stabilize the tariff rate at something that's similar to other countries' tariff rates against us, since that would actually make it fair in economic trade. So we need to do that. And we just need to stabilize the tariff rates. And that would actually help improve and make it more clear make it less uncertain for tariffs. That would actually help in the short term too, but it also help in the long term, because then companies can actually plan for how they send goods over to America, and how supply chains end up actually, and they can plan their supply chains around in a way that is actually effective with tariffs. So that's another thing. Those are the two major things: cut regulation and also find a way to reduce taxes while also reducing government spending. Because currently government spending and taxes are pretty high. They're close to the highest that we've ever had, really. So we need to find a way to do that. Those are the main things to solve for long-term growth. Sadly, I don't think there's much we can do for short-term. Mainly because we're already in a bubble. Like the stock market, and the short-term jobs market isn't going to look great. Now, I guess we could... I guess the government could hire a whole bunch of people back, but that's going to help in the short term, but that's going to hurt in the long term. And the long term matters more. So, the best thing, in my opinion, is let the bubble pop and try to find a way to invest better for the long term.